I don't know about your representative, but you've got the best congressional staff in DC, and the vast majority right here in the 8th District, and I'm one of those rare members of Congress who gets to sleep in my district every single night.
Oh, yeah.
I love that. I love being with my people all of the time, and this neighborhood, of course, has special meaning for me because we've lived here for most of our lives, and before I ran for Congress in 2016, I was the state senator for Silver Spring, District 20 for a decade, and that's where I got my taste for actually getting things done. Floor leader for marriage equality, and we passed.
Yeah.
We abolished the death penalty, and we restored voting rights to former prisoners, and we passed with the State Attorney General Brian Fox, the toughest gun safety law.
All right. That's important today.
Yes, this is. You know, it was a tough race back in 2006. I don't know if I'm still around for that, but I was running against a 32-year president.
Wow.
I was the president pro tem of the Maryland Senate, who person, but I think was not in touch with where we are. Of course, we're seen as the progressive life in Montgomery County of the whole state. Announced, and it was seen as kind of a fool's errand, a dark horse thing. My favorite story about that race is the Post had an article about it, first quoting a pundit who said Raskin's chances of victory are considered impossible, and then 9 months. But I remember when Sarah and I, we went out on our front porch. It was a freezing cold day in January of 2006, and I announced that I wanted to run, and I laid out everything that we wanted to do, all of the changes that we wanted to make. We wanted tough anti-drunk driving legislation, we wanted marriage equality, we wanted to abolish death, and all this stuff. And a woman came up to me at the end of it, and she said, "Jamie, great speech. I love your speech. Take out everything that you've got in there about gay marriage, because it's not going to happen. It's never going to happen. Even the gay candidates don't know about it." And then she said, "It makes you sound like extreme, like you're not in the political center." Okay? Now, I had to swallow hard because we did it also arose during my service in Annapolis. It was a decade ago. It was in 2010, and I was leading the floor fight in the Senate for marriage equality. But I was also sick, and a lot of you will remember this. I had cancer, and so I was going to do my treatments at the Anne Arundel Medical Center to get chemo done. I'd get my chemo, the IV kind. I'd come back, this belt on, which you needed for the 48-hour infusion. on this. And we finally got it through, and it was an extraordinary thing because Maryland was the first state in the union to marriage equality without being told we had to do so by our state Supreme Court. Everybody praises Massachusetts because, all glory to Massachusetts, all cases and everything. But Massachusetts had been told by their legislature, by the state Supreme Court, that they had to do it. Our state high court didn't say that, but we passed it anyway. But so when it was all over, when you're the floor leader, you get to make a little speech. And it was a very emotional thing for me because I'd been going through, I did it all, radiation, surgery, now the chemo, and it was at the same time that we passed marriage equality. And I got up and learned something about the difference between fortune and injustice in life. Because if you've got a wife that you love and 2 jobs that you love, students you love, constituents that you adore, 2 great jobs, and everything's going great, and then a doctor tells you you've got stage 3 colon cancer, this is a 50-50.
Yep.
That has to be how we organize society. And I saw very clearly why I consider myself a progressive, what makes me a Democrat. And it's that we understand that life is filled with enough misfortune, enough illness and sickness and accident and heartbreak that it should be the role of government to compound the fortunes of life with more injustice and inequality, but rather liberate people from injustice and to try to ameliorate the misfortune, the best governing philosophy. That's it. The government has got to be an instrument for the common good for everybody. And that's why these presidents have 275 bills on a partisan basis that are sitting in a huge wobbly stack on Senator McConnell's.
Yeah.
We passed a bill we named after our late beloved Elijah Cummings to dramatically lower prescription prices in America by tying a price cap to the average of 5 peer nations, Canada, France, Germany. The same companies right now that are selling drugs at affordable prices in those countries are selling them in America at 5 times or 10 times the same amount because they're allowed to, because we're the one country on earth that doesn't try to regulate the prices of prescription drugs, and a week doesn't go by when I don't hear from a constituent who tells me that he or she is having to ration his or her insulin or drugs to survive. Okay, so we have slip that in. Billy Tallis a new job when he left Congress as the president of Big Pharma.
Oh,
Welcome
man.
to Washington, right? So we can do better than that.
We have to.
And so that legislation is sitting on Mitch McConnell's desk. Last week, we sent them a universal criminal and mental background check bill to improve and expand the Brady legislation. Brady works. It saved us from guns being purchased by felons and fugitives, people who should not have those
Domestic abusers.
firearms, except loopholes. And one loophole is the internet loophole. You can trade violently unstable person. Okay? So, and what have we heard from the Senate? Nothing. Not a vote, not a markup session, not a hearing, nothing. We passed H.R. 1 to eliminate the injustice of gerrymandering in America by mandating independent redistricting commissions in every single state in the union. We've heard nothing about it. We tried to implement universal automatic voter registration and to end the purges of voters all over the country. They have not acted on that. They haven't done anything about it. So issue after issue, I just want to tell you, we have been legislating. We've been legislating in the House of Representatives.
Working.
A note on partisanship and then open it up to everybody, because people will say to me, why can't you guys just get along? Why can't you just reach out, and I'm a middle child. I believe in that. We had nothing but bipartisan legislation. I mean, we had disagreements and so on. Let me tell you what my philosophy of partisanship is. When you call our district office in Rochester, you got to come visit sometime, and you've got a problem, you haven't been able to get your VA benefits yet, from some of the young people in the public health service corps, young doctors who weren't getting paid, we went to work for them. You got a problem with Social Security check? We go to work for you. You are about to go in your house and you're sitting, you go to the airport and you realize your passport's expired. Who do you think's going to go to work for you? Kathleen Connor, Jenny Goodley, those guys will go down and get you a new passport. Okay, but you know what? We never say, are you a Democrat? Although I am reputedly a Democrat. Gender equity for everybody. I try to bring the mentality we have in the district office to the whole legislative process. Let's legislate in the interest of everybody. Now, I believe in political parties because they're a reflection of the First Amendment. You could ban political parties, you'd be violating everybody's speech and freedom of association. You can get rid of political parties in an authoritarian one-party state. like that. They got one party. So people by the party competition, don't be stressed out by party competition. That's healthy. That's democracy. But once in, I think we have to maintain a little bit of that George Washington sensibility. He used to say, remember that the word party comes from the French word part. Remember that our party is just a part of the whole. So we get in legislation. That's what I believe. Now, if that sounds too Pollyannish for you, I recognize that we've got real differences, and they were on display during the impeachment. I will go to my deathbed being proud of the fact that we stood up for the Constitution of the United States. That has the great scientific installations of the country and the world right here, and I believe in science.
You're here.
So I'll tell you one story, and then we're going to open it up. But so I had a friend in Congress, and he was a Republican from Texas. He was the loveliest guy named Lamar Smith, and he was the House Committee on Science and Technology. So I thought, there's a guy who can be my buddy, right? Because he's the chair of the House Committee on Science. I believe in science. I represent all these scientists. Any scientists? Yeah, we got a bunch of scientists. See, there we go. And the Judiciary Committee one day, I said, Lamar, look, we can disagree about the clubs, computer. Let's go to the websites of just the places in my district. Let's go to NOAA. Let's go to NIH. Let's go to FDA. Have climate change plans. All the professional scientists agree. There's no debate. There's no debate anywhere in the world except here with you guys. See, you know what he says? He says, well, I don't want to get in a big fight with you. He says, but let me tell you about professionals. Professionals built the Titanic.
Oh, God.
Built Noah's Ark. So, now let that sink in for a second. And I say, well, Lamar, does that mean that you want an amateur flying you back? Lamar Smith makes speech, climate change is real.
Oh.
He said he studied the evidence, he said climate is real. He's not sure it's caused by human beings, but in any event, deal with it.
Baby steps.
I thought that's amazing. And there's another article in Chronicle, wherever I click on it, Lamar Smith announces retirement.
Oh.
So he decided he had to leave at that point.
Right.
Let's just we've got a lot of work to do to bring the parties together, to bring the whole country together. I've got a lot of work to do with my college on climate change, and I don't know that I'm going to be able to convince all of them in time. Okay. All right, well, let's start with some people over here. We'll do a few of you, then we'll get it around.
Hi, Jamie. Kathleen Nepper. You've just about the differences between the Democrats and the Republicans. But right now, my biggest concern is the differences in the Democrats. And and more to the point, I think that the press is creating controversy because it's set up, and that the differences aren't important as the similarities, and that what we're really are isn't about policy, but about process.
Well,
and how can we somehow emphasize that, hey, Bernie has an idea about how we're going to get to Medicare for all. Amy has a different idea, but we both have in common the idea that everybody should have health care. And that's additional stuff, and it helps us to come together.
They're just gone. And I do think we'll come back to that. But I want to use your question as an opportunity to say something generally about division and polarization, because I think you're right that the media has seized upon that. But I think there's something real that has gone on too. And my eyes opened about it. This last night I read a book. I can't tell you the title of the book because it's unpronounceable in public. The title of the book is Cambridge Analytica and the Plot to Break America. It's written by Christopher Wiley, who was the original Cambridge Analytica whistleblower. It's the most remarkable story of how Cambridge Analytica and Steve Bannon, Vladimir Putin and his team, and lots of Trump got together and used the extraordinary and unprecedented new resource of data mining. Anti-Semitic hate crimes, racist hate crimes, Islamic hate crimes, all over the country. This is not just some natural phenomenon that comes like a hurricane. This was a strategy. This was a plot to break America. So when people say, doesn't this group hate that group, and don't we have to attack it? I say, that you're playing into Putin's playbook at that point. Vladimir Putin never could have taken on America militarily. Forget it. Never could have taken on America economically. Forget it. Never could have taken on America politically or philosophically. We are the greatest multiracial, multi-ethnic multi-religious, pluralist, ever
Yeah.
bar none. We are, okay? And we have fought to become better and better every step along the way. He could not beat us in a fair fight, but the clever guy, this ex-KGB chief, and he commissioned basically a Manhattan project about how to divide the democracies. How do you to politicize them, to propagandize them, and to activate them. And what do you know? We got this wave of hate crime, violence, attacks, meanness, division, rancor all over the country.
Yeah.
Let's not play into Putin's hands. Let's remember America. You know, I've got the greatest job in the world. It's an honor to be able to serve this amazing congressional district, and I want us to exemplify what America is to the rest of the country and to the rest of the world. We are not a racist country.
No.
We are not a sexist country. We are not a misogynist country. We are not an immigrant-hating country.
No.
That's not who we are. We believe in the rule of law. We
On your left.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you. I'd like to discuss H.R. 72, which is the anti-boycott resolution.
Oh, God.
I'm sure you're aware the United Nations Council recently released a blacklist to boycott companies that deal with the West Bank of Israel. There's been wide revulsion in Congress, bipartisan, against that, including Steny Hoyer. There is currently 2, which is the anti-boycott resolution. Will you co-sponsor it?
Please
I'm
don't.
not sure I know which one you're introduced one of them. Let me tell you just my thinking about this. First of all, everybody has a right to boycott whoever they want under the First Amendment.
Thank you.
You're talking about, right? And this, for me, this goes back to being a law professor. My law school, American University, has a program in Israel, in Haifa, where we send law students every year to boycott Israel. Well, that would have withdrawn not just all of the international commercial law programs we have over there, but the human rights programs that we have over there. So I'm opposed to the idea that boycott and quarantine advance the peace process in the Middle East or the recognition of people's human rights or any progress at all. So I took a very strong stand against the BDS movement. And if that's what you're referring to, I continue to take a strong stand against it. Even though I will absolutely defend everybody's right to boycott whomever they want in the United States.
who was going to be a mass shooter. And apparently, per this show, they were able to recruit, or he was able to recruit the banks and other places. Now, what they found out is one group and the other mass shooters used credit cards to obtain their weapons but they were able to stop that. And they were progressing toward that when some Trump official at the FCC or the FTA, I forget which, said, drop that, or we're going to start looking at serious antitrust violations by you people.
Huh? Okay, but I was unaware of this. That sounds fascinating. Please send me the link. The subcommittee which I chair on mass murder, which was the worst anti-Semitic attack in U.S. history. More people have been killed by white supremacists than Islamist terror groups. It's like 2 to 1.
Yeah.
And so we definitely have been trying to get the law enforcement community and to focus on that in the same way that the resources have been focused on the violent Islamist terrorists too. But please send me that, and I promise to check it out. Yes, Rocky, I see your hands up.
I'm Ryan, and I'm so glad that I saved your life. You are just a He is just a fantastic congressman, and I want him to run for president in 2028. Can I hear an amen out here in the audience? Amen. He'll be ready then. I think he's ready now. But what I wanted to ask you is, have
Well, yes, Rocky knows. I got you on my side. I got God on my side.
yeah, right.
And thank you for what you said, Rocky. I mean, the love and encouragement, the solidarity of my constituents during this time. And I don't know about running for president because I hate going on airplanes. It always gets me sick and everything. And I don't want to fly a little bit. But if we change the primary system, as we should, so regional primaries. Like, let's do a Chesapeake primary. We'll get Maryland, Virginia, DC, Pennsylvania. It's the environmental solution instead of people flying all over the place. And then we'll have a Deep South primary, New England primary. Then I would think about that. Because I could use the train and I could just I like that idea. So. It's a magnificent force. Okay, so I don't know how you guys call on people because first of all I don't have my glasses on, so I can't even get everybody's name. Make sure we get to everybody. I'm like how long we got the room, Kathleen, but I'm like the Bruce Springsteen of politics. I will stay until the very last person leaves. Okay.
On the porch. Francis introduced us back in 2006, so I've been a supporter here since then. Wow. If reality is 200 is to Senate and to reduce the House. And my question to you is, what kind of support have you heard from the Maryland Democrats?
Use this to organize people. So let me just try to state as dispassionately and objectively as possible what the situation is. First of all, Maryland, of course, has 2 Democratic U.S. Senators, Ben Cardin and Chris Van Hollen. Virginia has 2 Democratic U.S. Senators. And we have 7 Democrats in the House, 1 Republican in the House from Maryland. So yes, we are gerrymandered. No doubt about that, but I do think we have an overwhelming Democratic majority in Maryland. Let me say this. Let me tell you what I do. In my campaigns, I don't spend any money on TV, radio, pollsters, none of it. We call launching, so we're going to be around the country to do that. I believe that our Democratic chair, Yvette Lewis, and also to export the incredible energy and idealism and resources in Maryland to nearby states, because there are a lot of nearby swing states like North Carolina, like Pennsylvania and Jersey, and certainly we're going to be doing that in Democracy Summit. And Maryland has played that very important role. As long as it's electoral college, we've got to be savvy about it. I will tell you, the very first bill in Maryland State Senate was the national popular vote legislation to get us out of this terrible situation where 2 of the last 5 popular losers in 2000 and 2018 became presidents because antiquated and obsolete institutions. So we need to be working to get us towards
repeal without paying for 3 taxes from the Affordable Act in the final appropriations bill. But they weren't able to prioritize the funding for community health centers, National Health Service Corps, teaching health centers, diabetes program, and others. That expires on May 22nd. It's tied up now with the surprise billing, which has bipartisan angst around how that we have to pay for. I just want to ask you or plead with you to create some urgency to end those programs on a basis sooner rather than later, because those young physicians that you met, some of the most needy people, that continuity, and it just, this 2 years at a time, or even a few months at a time, extensions.
Totally with you, Teresa. I mean, and that's typical Capitol Hill politics. All of the attacks, the political attacks, the legal attacks, the administration. Well, the president comes to the State of the Union and says, we will never do anything to endanger your pre-existing condition coverage. He's in court trying to destroy it and trying to get the ACA down. The people around here are too savvy and understand that game. We're not going to let that go. By the way, that State of the Union was unbelievable. I felt like I was on the set of the Hunger Games. With the giveaways, one person we're going to give tuition. We're not going to from Afghanistan. One guy is back to visit his wife. I thought we were going to have a wedding proposal before it was all over. Somebody was going to land in a helicopter or something. Anyway, we're going to reject the gimmicks and we're going to stand strong for that. And I think those programs are well established for the Republicans really to try to dismember at this point.
I don't even think that the election is going to be fair. There was an article in the Atlantic recently that Terry Gross interviewed the writer of that article about how he was manipulated by RNC. So, without getting a kumbaya answer, could you just maybe explain how our democracy is going to be saved?
Well, okay, so start with the election. We've got to defend the electoral. Steny and I put in legislation, which passed, we got through for $470 million to be distributed through the Election Assistance Commission to the states to fortify cybersecurity in the states. We know that Putin his forces tried to get into the State Board of Election computer machinery in the country. So that money's gone, being fortified. There was more legislation on press to follow whatever it is that's happening. We need the public to be completely alert. This time, we can't claim we didn't know. So we got to be watching Facebook, we got to be watching Google, we got to be watching everything that's happening on the internet to oppose the disinformation, the fake news, the lying that we know is going to take place. Counter every surprise that we know is coming to try to disinfect people. in this election. And if and when we get through this, and I'm convinced we will, that's got to be number one on our agenda. The electoral process to pass H.R. 1 so we don't get those should be illegal. If somebody if somebody moves and then a new state them, the new state should tell the old state this person is now in our rolls. You can get rid of them, as opposed to saying, oh, there's 600,000 people who didn't vote in the last election in Georgia, therefore we're going to assume they're dead or they moved out of state. That's ridiculous. This is what Stacey is talking about. I mean, her election really was cost by these outrageous practices that are taking place. A decentralized electoral system in America. That's worked well for different forces in society, but we've got to get back. Process, and we don't want to spread paranoia. That's also part of the Putin plan to make people believe is not going to count. Remember, Hillary beat Trump by 3.5 million votes in 2016. They squeaked it out in election. In 2018, when we did our job, the House came back to the Democratic side, 235 to 200. We beat them by 9 million. And when we go to 2020, there's going to be millions more of these young people registering to vote.
Sorry, just on that last topic, I just want to invite everybody. We held one screening of a fantastic documentary called Suppressed, all about Stacey Abrams' race in this room a couple weeks ago. We have another one coming up on Tuesday the 18th at 6 o'clock with a panel discussion to follow. We're doing around the county, so I wanted to invite everybody to come back 6 o'clock on Tuesday in this room.
Terrific, and you're talking about not just Maryland, but what's going on around the country. Absolutely. Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you, Councilman Hucker. All right, let's maybe work your way back up here. We got a bunch of hands up here. Okay, good. And we'll work our way across like that. We'll get everybody. Yeah.
Hi, Jamie. Beverly Haller.
And I'm going to answer real fast.
This is a quick one.
Yes.
When we take over the White House this year, what is going to help us get anything passed if the Senate is still governed by Mitch McConnell?
Oh boy.
So obviously, I hope that premise we can just, McConnell himself has got a very serious race in Kentucky.
Yeah. Yeah, an immigrant.
And we've got Democrats. Any influence, and we've got a president who is and ungovernable and incorrigible, and they just are acting like accomplices. Yeah. So, yeah.
Thank you for everything. The mass media focuses on not the two main. Glad to hear you speak about climate. I only learned this morning that you were an original sponsor of the Green Deal. I would encourage you, as you speak, to let people know across the district and elsewhere what you're doing, because it's important around. But the other thing that is I see as our major issue, is that of nuclear annihilation. And I had to work hard to find out what your vote was.
And brought it to the floor. Because look, the way the Constitution is set up, I don't need to tell you guys this, you know, Congress has the power to declare war, not the President of the United States, whether he's a Republican or a Democrat or what have you. And so we've got to get back to that fundamental understanding. Why the framers of the Constitution not want the President to be able to just plunge us into war? Because the kings and the princes and the monarchs were constantly engaging their nations in war, vanity and conceit and prestige and political distraction. To put war in the power of one person. That's why it's got to be the representatives of the sons and daughters of
I've worked in the international development field for most of my career. And there's a I wanted to ask you about the U.S. refugee resettlement program. Historically, we've resettled to 70 to 90,000 people a year. Under the Curtin administration, it's been cut here. This year, it's 18,000, and there's been media it's going to be cut to 0. These are people just from foreign countries, and there's an executive order saying that local governments have to prove it settled. So my question is,
on our diversity and our welcome and our embrace of new people. And it's why we've got the most exciting, dynamic, educated community in America. It's remarkable what we have here. You're describing the Stephen Miller policy. That he wants to reduce refugees in America to literally 0. There are members of his family, by the way, who have written to him saying, our family never would have ended up here if these policies were in place. What's the policy? You got to prove that you won't be a social charge. Public charge. The new policy says we won't let you into America if you can't prove yourself that you won't become a public charge. And the very first time that there was an outbreak of these public charges was during the Holocaust, when Jewish refugees from the Nazis. So great resource, and I'm in very touch with them. We're doing everything that we can in Congress to try to bring the Senate along to keep them to their senses, but they have slashed the refugee assistance by, I think, 75 or 80%. And as you're saying, they're trying to get closer to zero.
So the whole infrastructure is going to be destroyed for resettling people when the numbers go up. That's part of the problem.
Yeah. So we're trying to hang on to every dollar we can. We're trying to help organize and support the not-for-profits to fill in until we get through this nightmare. And we're trying to remind people what it's all about, right? I mean, James Madison said that America would be an asylum for humanity, not an insane asylum.
Federal budget. For a year, we had an entitlements commission. We were going to address the fact that Social Security and Medicare is going to go bankrupt. Nothing happened. We had another commission in '98. Nothing happened. In 2002, another one. I think in 2010 or 2012, we had Simpson Bowles, which was the absolute, we need to stop overspending now, or the we got a reasonable bipartisan thing across the board. Of course, there was a recession, and that was all thrown. President Trump is now demanding negative. I lost my oldest aunt 2 or 3 years ago. I was living on fixed, and it all went away. We were at 1% interest rates. The Federal Reserve deficit since 2000. I think the game's up, sir. When are we going to address the reality that we can't continuously print money? Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that, and we just got some information for Pelosi's office to put out a partisan statement about how deficit continues to climb in unprecedented ways under Trump, the way it did under Bush, and it's the Democrats who demonstrate the discipline, and I can do so. And that's kind of the partisan take on it. It does, this president has added $3 trillion to the national debt and the deficit. So so
Carter for doubling the debt of all previous presidents.
So
turned around and did the same thing.
Yeah. Branches of government. The Senate has shown no interest in it. So you can view it as the frustration of being in a situation where we've only got one chamber that.
Sir, let him answer.
Let me just say, we are in a posture where this is another one of the long-range threats to the country that is not being dealt with. We need to deal with it in a very serious way. And I've had town hall meetings that are bigger about Social Security, where we brought people together to discuss the issue. But I just want to tell you, very in terms of the politics of it, to be arguing for entitlement constraint and self-discipline when they've thrown caution to the winds on everything. I mean, the reason we raised the defense budget, which I voted against, I believe very strongly, and it has voted against that obscene, really interesting proposals that are on the table, and nothing's being done about it. But we also have to make, restraint a really serious bipartisan commitment. We got one more, and then I'll hang around to talk to everybody else. We're going to go to the room.
All right, I'm going to be short and to the point. I'm going to address this to everybody in the room. I know you can't do this, but I can. I'm going to suggest that when we leave the room, everyone here, go online, donate money to Jason in South Carolina running against Lindsey Graham, and to Amy McGrath running against Mitch McConnell.
Here.
That we can get rid of these two snakes. Just go online, even if it's $5, donate to these candidates.
Here.
Second thing, and right to the point, I say this to Jamie, I used my father's words at the end of a yoga class, and I wanted you to know, a woman walked up to me with tears in her eyes, and she said, "Thank you for that. I knew Marcus." Before we leave,
I think you're referring, my dad said, when everything looks hopeless, you're the hope.
Yep.
And so I kept that close to my heart. We all have the hope. I did. Constituent problems, then let us sign the confidentiality forms and everything, and we can go to work for you. And I guess we got time before I give you all, sir.
Actually, that would have been a great note to have that on.
Well, thank you very much, Jenny. I would first of all like to address your modesty, and I think that it's do that. You should be less modest.
I'm the most modest person I know. How about that?
Well, you're the most modest guy up there, but
We'll
in
brag
reality,
on him.
what I think you need is a marketing plan that will address all of the wonderful things that your staff does and that you do, and that you can the 46% of the people who don't in line to vote. Because we're talking Republicans and Democrats, and there's 46% of the people who don't vote at all, who can't figure out why. And we can't.
Have you involved, and we welcome everybody's participation. So thank you much. I don't know what we're going to do. Mary, can we do a couple more? We can do. I don't want us to be physically removed. by the powers that be. We don't want to
I'll try to be quick. I want to mention our veterans. Through the Mission Act, the Trump administration they're trying to privatize the Veterans Health Administration. Veterans do not want to be dumped into the for-profit health system. They shouldn't. We should be taking care of them. Veterans Against the War, they're all involved. Other groups too. And Jamie, I hope you take this issue. The VA health system is also massively underfunded. I hope that everybody here, if you hear a request to take a stand,
First, the DOJ policy that a sitting president can't be criminally prosecuted
Yes.
in office, is that really an opinion policy?
Yes.
Not a law or the Constitution? And
That's right.
Wouldn't the judicial have something to say about
The Office of Legal Counsel is my constitutional professor, Lawrence Tribe, has written a very convincing law that's totally fabricated. Nothing. There's no Supreme Court precedent which stands for that principle. And I mean, are we really saying if the president murdered someone on Fifth Avenue, for example, he could not be prosecuted? He leaves office. I mean, that seems bizarre. I don't. So I'm with you on that. And of course, they had a heads we win, tails you lose. The president can't be criminally indicted or prosecuted because he can be impeached, and then we move to impeach. They say you can't impeach him because you haven't prosecuted him yet. You haven't indicted him. So how phony is that?
Okay, so then at some point, empowering the crimes?
Well, if they were directly involved in the crimes, I mean, I don't think failing to impeach, unfortunately, or failing to remove and convict would be a crime.
No, not
I mean,
that.
yeah.
No, they're telling you.
Should be.
Go ahead, do it. Reporting is
Yes, there's a kind of aiding and abetting going on. I mean, the whole party